I had just finished breastfeeding my son when I heard the door slam. It was a sharp, final slam, the kind that hits you in the chest before you can even process it. She was gone. Forever. No explanation, no goodbye. No glance at the 2-month-old baby sleeping in his crib. She simply grabbed her backpack, said she couldn't take it anymore, and left. I stood there, holding the dirty diaper, unable to process what had just happened. My son started crying again. That sharp, newborn cry that tears at your soul. I picked him up, still in shock, and sat down on the sofa. I looked around and saw the small apartment, the bills on the table, the refrigerator I knew was almost empty. And then it hit me, I was alone. Alone with a 2-month-old baby, no stable income, no help, no one. Despair washed over me like a wave, drowning me inside as I rocked my son, trying to soothe him and calm myself at the same time. My maternity leave was ending in 2 weeks. I'd worked until the very last day of my pregnancy as a sales assistant in a clothing store, but my salary barely covered half the rent. What now? How was I going to go back to work, and who would take care of my son? Since he lived here, we already split the expenses, and he looked after the baby when I needed to go out. But now I was going to have to pay the rent alone, buy groceries alone, buy diapers alone, and still find someone to look after my son while I worked. I spent the whole night awake, even after the baby finally fell asleep. I stared at the ceiling, doing mental calculations, and none of them added up. I needed at least double what I earned just to survive and still pay someone to take care of him. And it was there at 4 a.m, with my son breathing on my chest and tears drying on my face, that I understood. I was going to have to do the impossible, because there was no one else to do it for me. The next morning before dawn, I was already on my phone looking for work. Anything. Cleaning, deliveries, night shifts. I knew one job wouldn't be enough, and that I'd have to juggle things in ways I didn't even think were humanly possible. But when I saw my son asleep, so small, so dependent on me, I knew I had no other choice. And it was at that moment, with a broken heart but with a decision made, that my real struggle began. If you've ever been abandoned with a baby in your arms, if you've ever felt the despair of not knowing how you're going to get through this, like this video, because we need these stories to be seen. We need to show the world that single mothers aren't just statistics. It's real pain, it's a real struggle, and we're not going to remain invisible any longer. The first few days after he left were the worst of my life. I couldn't sleep, not even when the baby was asleep. I kept checking my phone, waiting for a message from him saying he'd come back, that it had been a mistake, that he would help me. But nothing. Absolute silence. I texted him asking how we were going to handle expenses and child support. He saw the message and didn't reply. He blocked my number 2 days later. Panic. I really panicked. That kind of fear that paralyzes you, that squeezes your chest so tight you think you're going to die. I had 300 reais in my account. 300. The rent was due in a week and it was 700. The diapers were running out. The powdered milk I used to supplement my diet because I couldn't afford anything else was also running out. And my 2-month-old son depended completely on me to survive. I cried so much I ran out of tears. I cried in the shower, I cried while breastfeeding, I cried while changing diapers. And the worst part was that I couldn't completely fall apart because he was there, needing me every 3 hours. I felt like I was sinking, like I was in quicksand, and every movement made me sink even further. I thought about calling my mother, but we were distant, and I knew she would say that I had gotten myself into this situation. There was a moment when I looked at my sleeping son and felt devastating guilt. Guilt for bringing him into this world. Guilt for not choosing a better father. Guilt for not being able to give him what he deserved. I felt like a failure before I even began. How could I raise a human being when I could barely stand up? But in the midst of all this chaos, something inside me refused to give up. I don't know if it was instinct, if it was love, if I simply had no other choice. But every time I thought about giving up, I looked at that baby, so helpless, so innocent, and I knew he hadn't asked to be there. And that if I fell, he would fall with me. And I couldn't let that happen. That's when I dried my face, took a deep breath, and decided that, from that day forward, I would do whatever it took. Anything. Comment below if you've ever felt like you were sinking, but had to stay on your feet because someone depended on you. 'Cause we need to talk about this. About the fear that no one sees, but that paralyzes us from within. On Monday morning, I left the house with my son in a baby carrier, that piece of fabric that held him close to my chest. I went around to the businesses near my house, handing out resumes. Shops, bakeries, bars, pharmacies. Anywhere with a help wanted sign. People looked at the baby, then at me, and I saw the answer in their eyes before they even spoke. A mother with a small baby didn't stand a chance at employment. It was risky. It was trouble. I returned home with aching feet and a heavy heart. But I didn't give up. I opened every job application I knew of. I saw a vacancy for a night shift worker at a gas station. The schedule was from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. That meant I would work all night, go home in the morning, take care of the baby during the day, and try to sleep when he did. But they paid 800 reis. I sent my resume right away. 2 days later, they called me for an interview. I went back with my son because I had no one to leave him with. The manager was direct. She asked if I had anyone to leave the boy with at night. I lied. I said yes, that my mother took care of him. They hired me. I started on Friday. I left there shaking because I had no idea how I was going to manage. But I was going to find out. The next day I got another job. I cleaned 2 houses, one on Mondays and Wednesdays, and the other on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning. They paid me 200 reals a month for each one. 400 reals more. I accepted without hesitation. And I also sent my resume to deliver lunches by bicycle on weekends. They called me that same day. Another 300 reals a month if I worked Saturdays and Sundays from 11 to noon and from 6 to 8 at night. I did the math in my head. 800 from the gas station, 400 from cleaning, 300 from deliveries. 1,500 reals. It wasn't enough, but it was enough for rent, basic food, diapers. There was just one problem. When was I going to sleep? And more importantly, who would take care of my son while I worked nights? I spoke with the owner of the apartment next door, Dona Klusa, a retired lady who sometimes smiled at my son when we passed each other in the hallway. I explained my situation to her in a trembling voice, asking if she could look after him from 11 at night until 7 in the morning. I offered her 50 reals a night. She looked at me with an expression I'll never forget, a mixture of pity and respect, and said yes, that she understood, that she had been through the same thing. I started everything that same week. And at that moment, I still didn't know the price my body and mind would pay for that decision. If you've ever had to take any job, any schedule, anything to keep your child from going hungry, you know what it's like. Like this, if you understand that we don't work 3 times a day because we want to, but because we have to. The routine began and quickly turned into a slow-motion nightmare. I would wake up at 6 in the morning, pick up my son from Dona Klusa's house, breastfeed him, change him, and try to get him back to sleep. At 8, I would go out with him in a baby carrier to do the cleaning. I would clean other people's houses with my baby strapped to me, crying, breastfeeding between rooms. I would return home at midday, exhausted, bathe him, breastfeed him again, and try to sleep while he slept. But I couldn't sleep. My body was too tired to relax. My mind wouldn't switch off. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the bills, the diapers, the milk, until he woke up crying again. 3 hours later at most. And I'd get up dizzy, my body aching, to start all over again. At 11 o'clock at night, I'd take him to Dona Klusa's, go to the gas station, and stay up all night serving customers, cleaning, working the cash register. When I got home in the morning at 7:30, I was so tired I could barely walk upright. But I couldn't stop. I picked up my son and the cycle started all over again. On weekends, when I thought I was finally going to rest, I had to go out on my bike to deliver lunches with him, because there was no one else to go with him. I pedaled with one hand, holding the cooler, and with the other the handlebars, praying I wouldn't fall, that I wouldn't hurt him. My body started giving me signals. I had constant headaches, back pain that never went away, and I was running out of milk. I wasn't eating well because I didn't have time, I wasn't hungry, and when I was, I saved up to buy her things. I lost so much weight my pants were falling off. I had dark circles under my eyes, my hair was falling out, and my hands trembled with exhaustion. But I kept going, because stopping meant not being able to pay the bills. And not being able to pay the bills meant losing my home. There was a day I almost fainted. It was at the house I was cleaning on Thursday. I was mopping the floor with my son asleep in his carrier when everything went dark. I grabbed the wall, took a deep breath, and tears welled up. I was at my limit. My body was screaming for rest, food, care. But I couldn't stop. Because if I stopped, who would hold my son? That night, I cried so much I woke him up. I picked up my baby and apologized. I apologized for not being enough, for not being able to give him a rested, present, and smiling mother. I felt like I was failing at everything. And the worst part, I even felt guilty for feeling this way. Comment below if you've ever worked until your body was screaming for help. If you've ever felt guilty for being too tired to smile at your child. Because we need to talk about this exhaustion that no one sees, but that destroys us from the inside. 2 more weeks passed in that insane routine. I was running on autopilot. Wake up, work, take care of everything, work, take care of everything, sleep for 2 hours, start all over again. My body didn't even feel pain anymore. It was numb, as if it had stopped complaining. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Deep dark circles under my eyes, pale face, empty expression. I had become a survival machine. It was a Tuesday morning when something happened that changed everything. I had just returned from the gas station, exhausted, with that dizziness that comes from not having slept well in days. I picked up my son from Donna Klus's house, took him to the apartment, and sat on the sofa to breastfeed him. He was 3.5 months old. He had grown a little, was plumper, more alert. While he nursed, I looked at him with that intense weariness in my body, but also with a tightness in my chest. A tightness of love mixed with guilt. Suddenly she stopped nursing. She looked me straight in the eyes, those bright little eyes, and smiled. It wasn't that reflexive newborn smile. It was a real smile. A huge smile that filled her little face, showing her gums and squinting her eyes. And she let out a little noise, a soft giggle, as if to say that everything was all right, that she was happy, that she loved me. Broke down. I cried right then and there, holding him tight, feeling his little heart pounding against my chest. And in that instant everything made sense. All the pain, all the exhaustion, all the loneliness. It was all worth it. 'Cause he was okay. He was growing healthy, happy, and he loved me. I may not have had money. I may have been falling apart, but I had him. And he had me. And in that exchange of glances, I felt that we were going to be all right. I held his little face in both hands and whispered, my voice trembling, "Mommy loves you very much, my son. So very much. And we're going to make it, okay? I promise." And when I said that, I believed it. Because I understood that he didn't need a perfect mother. He needed a mother who was present. And even though she was exhausted, she was there. During breaks, feedings, diaper changes, and nighttime cuddles. She was there. That day, something inside me shifted. The exhaustion didn't disappear, but I found a reason stronger than the exhaustion. And that reason smiled at me 3 months later, telling me wordlessly that I was enough. If your child's smile has given you the strength to keep going when you thought you had none left, give this post a like. And comment below about a time your child saved you without you even realizing it. Because we must remember that we are not alone in this. The 10th day of the month arrived. Rent payment day. I'd spent the last 30 days running around, working, pushing myself to the limit. I'd saved every last penny from my 3 jobs, economizing on everything I could. Rice and eggs had become a daily staple. I diluted my shampoo with water to make it last longer. I turned off the lights during the day, even when the apartment was dark. Every penny counted. I sat on the bed and counted the money. I had it all separated into envelopes. Envelope for rent, envelope for diapers, envelope for food. I opened the rent envelope with a trembling hand. I counted it once. 700 reals. Exactly. I had done it. Alone. Without anyone's help. Without him. Without family. Just me and my hard work. I held the money in my hand and cried. But this time it wasn't a cry of despair. It was a cry of relief, of pride, of victory. Because in that moment I proved to myself that I could do it. That I could be exhausted, broken, alone, but I was capable. My son wasn't going to be homeless. Not because of me. I had made the impossible happen. I went to his room, where he was still sleeping in the little crib I'd bought secondhand. I watched him breathe, his little body rising and falling, so innocent, so oblivious to everything I was going through to keep us going. And I felt immense pride. Not for him because he was still a baby, but for myself. For myself. The next day, I paid the rent to the landlord in person. He took the money, counted it, and said, "No problem." I left with my head held high. I went home and, for the first time in weeks, managed to sleep 2 hours straight without waking up startled, thinking about an overdue bill. 'Cause that month was guaranteed. We had a place to live. There was still a long road ahead. I still had overdue bills, diapers to buy, and milk to pay for. But that day, I proved to myself that I wouldn't give up. That every day I woke up and kept going, I was building something. Something no one could take away from me. The certainty that I was stronger than I ever imagined. If you've ever celebrated a seemingly impossible achievement alone, or cried tears of relief after finally paying a bill, share your story in the comments. Because these small victories are what keep us going. And we deserve to celebrate every single one of them. My son turned 4 months old. I was getting used to that crazy routine. My body had adjusted to sleeping little, and everything was going well. It wasn't easy, but it was working. It was one of those days, coming back from cleaning, that I passed by a shop and saw my reflection in the window. I stopped. I looked. And I didn't recognize myself. I was wearing dirty sweatpants, a baggy t-shirt with a milk stain, my hair pulled back in a messy bun, not a drop of makeup on. I had dark circles under my eyes, a tired face, and the hunched posture of someone overweight. I looked 50, but I was 24. 24. And I felt invisible. Not as a mother, as a woman. The woman I was had completely disappeared under that mountain of responsibilities. I arrived home and, after putting my son to bed, I sat on the edge of the bed and was overcome by a profound loneliness. It wasn't just the loneliness of having no one around. It was the loneliness of not being seen, of not being loved, of being nothing more than the baby's mother, the cleaning lady, the shop assistant. I had become a function. I had ceased to be human. I thought about the last time someone had called me by my name affectionately. The last time someone had looked me in the eyes and asked how I really was. The last time I had felt beautiful, interesting, alive. And I couldn't remember. Because it had been so long since I mattered to anyone, not even to myself. Felt rage. Rage at my ex who was out there living his life, going out meeting new people while I was trapped. Trapped in motherhood. Trapped in responsibility. Trapped in a life that had no room for anything else. And along with the rage came guilt. Guilt for thinking about myself when I should be grateful for having my son. Guilt for missing being a woman, for wanting something more than being a mother. But the truth is, I missed it. I missed talking about something other than diapers. I missed laughing, getting dressed up for something, looking in the mirror and liking what I saw. I missed feeling wanted, having someone to share the burden with, even if it was just to listen. And I realized that if I didn't rediscover myself, I would disappear completely. And my son didn't deserve a mother who would vanish. That night I promised myself I would try. I would try to take care of myself, even if it was little by little. I would try to remember that I existed beyond motherhood. Because I wasn't just a mother. I was also a woman. And that didn't make me any less of a mother. Made me more human. Subscribe to this channel if you've ever felt this way. If you've ever looked in the mirror and not recognized yourself. Because there's still so much of this journey I need to share, and I don't want you to miss it. We need to be in this together, because no one understands us better than another single mother. My son was 5 months old when I started to realize that this 3-job routine couldn't last forever. Not because I couldn't handle it. I'd already proven I could endure the impossible. But because I didn't want his life to be just that. Me running around, always tired, always on the edge. I wanted to be able to take him to the park without worrying about deadlines. I wanted a day off to really play with him. And for that, I needed to change something. I started tracking my finances again. But this time it wasn't just to survive the month. It was to plan. I wrote everything down in an old notebook. How much came in, how much went out, where I overspent, where I could cut back. I canceled the delivery service I wasn't even using anymore. I switched to a cheaper brand of diapers that worked just as well. I started planning my monthly shopping with lists. No more improvisation, no more wasting money. And in the end, there was a little left over. Not much, but some. That's when an idea came to me. I saw in an online group for single mothers that some women were taking free online courses. Basic things like computer skills, customer service, and Excel. And this opened doors to better jobs for me, with a fixed salary, a formal contract, and regular working hours. I could quit my 3 jobs and get just one that paid more. Seemed like a dream, but I decided to give it a try. I enrolled in an online telemarketing and sales course. I studied in the early hours of the morning after work, before getting those 2 hours of sleep. It was exhausting but different. I was building something. Not just surviving, but preparing myself for a better life. I finished the course in 3 weeks. I printed the certificate at an internet cafe and updated my resume. I sent my applications to several companies. Some didn't even respond. Others said I didn't have experience. But one company, a telemarketing firm, called me for an interview. I went with my son because I had no one to leave him with. The interviewer looked at him, then at me, and asked if I was available. I said yes, that I could work any hours, that I was punctual, dedicated, and that I needed this opportunity. He hired me. Fixed salary 1,100 reais. 6 hours a day. Monday to Friday, formal employment contract. I accepted immediately. When I left, I sat on a park bench and cried. 'Cause for the first time in months I saw a light. I could stop doing odd jobs, I would have a schedule, I would have dignity. And most importantly, I could have time with my son. I told all 3 jobs I was leaving. Dona Clusa was happy for me. She said I deserved it, that she'd never seen anyone fight with such intensity. And that week when I started the new job, I felt like I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was rebuilding my life. And that made all the difference. If you too are trying to go beyond mere survival and plan a better life, subscribe to the channel. Because there's still a long story ahead, a lot of struggle, but also a lot of victory. And I want you to see that it's possible, that we can do more than just survive. I'd been at my new job for 2 months. Things had improved. It wasn't easy, but I could breathe easier. My son was 7 months old and could already sit up on his own, laugh out loud and babble "mama," without really understanding what it meant. And I'd managed to rent a spot for him at a daycare near my work. It was a public daycare. The waiting list was enormous, but a spot opened up and I got it. Finally, he was being properly cared for while I worked. It was a Thursday as I was leaving work when I saw him. He was leaning against a car across the street, waiting. When our eyes met, my stomach churned. 6 months. 6 months had passed since he slammed his car door and disappeared. 6 months without a word, without asking about his son, without sending a single penny. And now he was there, as if nothing had happened. I crossed the street, my heart racing. Before I could say anything, she smiled. She smiled. And she said she missed me, that she'd been thinking a lot, that she wanted to meet her son. I stood there processing it. Wanted to meet him. Meet him. She'd abandoned us when the baby was 2 months old. She wasn't there when I went hungry. She wasn't there when I worked all night. She wasn't there when I nearly collapsed from exhaustion. I asked him where he'd been all this time. He gave vague excuses. He said he was confused, that he wasn't ready, that he was different now, that he'd gotten a good job, that he wanted to help, that he wanted to be a father. And I felt a surge of anger rise in my throat. Cold, controlled, but deep anger. Because he thought he could just come back whenever it suited him. When his son was older, when the hard work was over. I told him that if he wanted to see his son, he had to do it properly. With regular child support payments, with commitment, with responsibility. He agreed too quickly. He said yes, that he would do everything properly. And that made me even more suspicious, because I knew this man. And I knew that any promise he made to him was just empty words. I arrived home trembling. I took my son in my arms, looked at his much bigger little face, so different from when he left, and felt a fear that gripped my chest. Fear that he would enter my son's life and disappear. Fear that my son would grow attached to him and then suffer. Fear that everything I had built on my own would be shaken by his unstable presence. But I also knew my son had a right to know his father, and that I couldn't make that decision alone, not with all the fear or all the anger. So I was gonna have to test him, see if this time it was real or just another phase. Share your thoughts here about whether your child's father also disappeared and returned when it suited him, once the hard work was over. Because this is one of the most difficult moments, deciding whether to give him another chance or protect your child from further heartbreak. He started showing up. First, everything was perfect. He would pick up his son on Saturday mornings, take him to the park, and bring him back at the agreed-upon time. My son was beginning to recognize him, to smile when he saw him, and it broke my heart. Because I saw in his eyes a joy that I alone couldn't give him. The joy of having a father present. But I couldn't relax. Every time I came to pick up my son, I tensed up, waiting for the moment he'd fail to show up. And it only took 3 weeks. One Saturday, he texted me half an hour beforehand saying he wouldn't be able to pick him up, that he had an appointment. My son was ready, in the clothes I'd chosen for him, waiting at the door. When I told him Daddy wasn't coming, he didn't understand, but I saw the confusion on his little face. I called my ex, my hand trembling. Not from fear but from anger. I told him that a child wasn't a toy he could pick up whenever he wanted and throw away whenever he got tired of it. That if he was going to be a part of our son's life, it had to be for real. That he'd already abandoned us once and I wasn't going to let him do it again. He got angry. He said I was exaggerating, that it was just an unexpected event, that he'd always find a reason to fight. And it was at that moment that it became crystal clear to me. He hadn't changed. He was simply going through a good phase, a phase where being a father was convenient, enjoyable, easy. But at the first sign of difficulty, the first time something became more important, he would disappear again. And I couldn't let my son grow up in this emotional roller coaster, waiting for someone who was never consistent. I made a decision. I told him that if he wanted to continue seeing our son, he would have to go to court to get everything sorted out. Official child support, regulated visits, a real commitment. It wasn't going to be improvised anymore, based on his word. Because his word meant nothing. He was furious. He said I was being controlling, that I couldn't decide this alone, that he had rights. I replied with a calmness I didn't even know I possessed. You have rights. But our son has the right to a present and reliable father. And if you can't be that, then I will protect him from you. Because protecting my son isn't about keeping you away. It's about protecting his heart from another disappointment. Hung up the phone. In the following days, he disappeared again. He didn't answer messages, he didn't show up, he didn't call. And that hurt, but it also confirmed everything I already knew. He wasn't ready. And maybe he never would be. But I was. I was ready to protect my son, even if it meant being called the villain. Because in the end, I was the one who would be there every single day. And that responsibility wasn't a burden. It was love. Like this post, if you've ever had to choose between giving someone another chance or setting firm boundaries. Because we know that protecting someone isn't about pushing them away. It's about preserving them. And not everyone understands that. My son turned 2. 2 years of struggle, of rebuilding, of small and big victories. He was bigger, speaking in full sentences, running around the house, full of energy and questions. And I had managed to leave telemarketing and get a better job as an administrative assistant, with a better salary and flexible hours. Life was still difficult, but we were doing well. Just the two of us. It was a Sunday afternoon while I was playing with him in the living room, when the question I dreaded most came to me. He stopped building with his blocks, looked at me with those eyes too curious for his age and asked, "Mommy, where's my daddy?" My heart stopped. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words, because I knew that whatever I said in that moment would mark him. I sat down on the floor at his level and said, in the calmest voice I could muster, "Your father lives far away, son. He doesn't live with us, but that has nothing to do with you. Sometimes parents aren't together, but that doesn't mean they don't love their children." He remained silent, processing the situation, and then asked, "But does he like me?" And that question shattered me, because I didn't know how to answer without lying, but I also didn't want to ruin any image she might have of her father. So I told her, "He does like you. It's just that sometimes people don't know how to show love properly. And Dad can't be here as much as I'd like. But you have Mom. And Mom is here every day, and she always will be." She accepted it, at least for the moment, and went back to playing as if nothing had happened. But I stood there, frozen, my heart aching, because I saw in his eyes a sadness no child should ever have to endure. The sadness of missing someone he barely knew. And I felt a deep hatred for my ex. Not because he had hurt me, that had already become a scar, but because he was hurting our son. And our son had done nothing to deserve it. That night, after putting him to bed, I took a notebook and began to write a letter. Not to him, his father, but to my son. A letter he would only read when he was older, when he understood everything. I wrote about my struggles, about the decisions I had to make, about how much I loved him, and about how I tried to preserve his father's image even when he didn't deserve it. I wrote to him because I wanted him to know the truth someday, when he grew up and started asking harder questions. That he was never the problem. That he was always loved, always wanted, always enough. And that his father's absence was his own fault, not his. I put the letter in an envelope, dated it, and promised him that someday in due time I would deliver it. If you've ever had to explain to your child why their father isn't around without breaking their heart, you know how difficult it is. Share your experience in the comments below, because we need to support each other during these times. Today my son turns 3. 3 years of life, of smiles, of health. And I look at him and see all that I've accomplished. I haven't bought a car or a house or a fortune, but I've achieved something much greater. I've proven to myself that I'm capable, that I can be alone, exhausted, broken, but still keep going. And nobody can take that away from me. Today I sat here after putting him to sleep and wrote a letter. Not to my son this time. To myself. To the woman I was that day the door slammed shut. To the woman who was left holding a 2-month-old baby and thought she wouldn't make it. And I wanted to tell her, "You will make it. It will hurt, it will be unfair, there will be nights when you want to give up. But you won't give up." I learned that being a single mother isn't about being a warrior all the time. It's about being human. It's about making mistakes, crying in secret, getting back up again. It's about working 3 jobs and still feeling inadequate. It's about carrying an invisible weight that no one sees, but that transforms you like nothing else ever could. And yes, there are days when I still feel angry. Angry that I have to do it all alone while he lives carefree, without guilt, without responsibility. But I learned that anger can't be my driving force. What drives me is him. It's his future. It's the certainty that he'll grow up seeing that his mother didn't give up. My son will grow up knowing that true love isn't perfect, but it's constant. That a mother isn't a superhero. She's a woman of flesh and blood who does the best she can with what she has. That I loved him every single day, even when I was too exhausted to show it. And that his father's absence was never, ever his fault. He'll know that he was the reason I didn't give up. That every job, every sleepless night, every tear I wiped away was for him. And to those listening now, those going through something similar, I want you to know, you are not alone. There are thousands of mothers like us, waking up in the middle of the night, working themselves to the bone, crying in the bathroom so no one sees us. And we will get through this. Not because we are strong, but because we have no other choice but to keep going. And in the end, when you look back, you will see that every painful step was worth it. That you built something beautiful out of so much pain. That you are truly incredible. I don't know what the future holds for my son and me, but I know we'll be together. And that as long as I have the strength to breathe, he'll have a mother who's present, devoted, and imperfect, but who loves him more than anything in this world. And that, in the end, is what matters. If this story touched you, if you cried, if you identified with any part of it, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I still have many more real stories to share. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes we save another Mother's Day simply by showing her she's not alone. Thank you for staying with me until the end. From the bottom of my heart, we are stronger than we imagine.